Narcissism at the workplace. How to spot and deal with a narcissist at work. Welcome back everyone, this is Victoria from Psychologist. Today in this video we are going to talk about narcissism at the workplace. How to deal and spot a narcissist at work. So in our society we often hear the word narcissism, especially when you talk about narcissistic boss or narcissistic manager or narcissistic coworker or an employee. So we can see that narcissists are everywhere around us. So you can see them in your family, in your social circles, even your friends, and also at the workplace. But before we dig deeper into the techniques, how to spot and deal with narcissists, it's good to define what does it mean to be a narcissist. So according to international definition, narcissism is a personality trait which can sometimes be considered as a mental health disorder when the person has an excessive sense of their own importance and a deep need for admiration. For example, a narcissist will usually feel superior to others. They usually link empathy towards other people or emotional awareness, and they are also kind of sensitive to criticism. Why it's so important to talk about narcissism at the workplace? Studies show that narcissism is linked to dysfunctional behavior at work and also anger, and I would say it has a negative impact on the workplace environment. Also, there has been a negative link between narcissism and job satisfaction, which means that narcissism can negatively impact the job satisfaction of the person. And today we have Alex. Alex is a psychologist and a neuroscientist, and he's going to give us a bit deeper insight about narcissism at the workplace, and more specifically how to spot and deal with the narcissist when you have him or her at the workplace. So as we talked, Alex, narcissists have very specific characteristics and personality. So can you tell us how to actually recognize the narcissist when you have them at the workplace?
Yeah, like narcissists usually are not just found in the positions of high power, like your managers or supervisors. It can actually be oftentimes found in the colleagues as well. And it's actually very easy to notice a narcissist because they hardly even try to hide it that they are a narcissist. They are in a way proud of it, so they present it very, let's say, highly in front of them. The other thing is that they are often insensitive to their colleagues that they work with, so they are not very addressing their feelings, needs, desires at the working environment. They're ignoring them very often. Oftentimes they also give you tasks outside of your working description, so tasks that you let's say are not obliged to do at the working environment, and this task can be personal for the narcissist, but they rarely will give you recognition or even reward for doing this task. So they present also very often their achievements in the office. They would have their titles, their degrees exposed all around their office. They also, when they're having conversations with others at work, they can disrupt them very often to present their own opinion. And this way they tend to establish, let's say, superior and inferior positions with the others that they're discussing. Also, they have a very sensitive self to criticism and to failure, so they can respond with anger, with not accepting it, blaming others for their failures at work. They also create oftentimes toxic environment in the working environment, and they can be, let's say, hard to deal with in general. So you end your day with going home feeling exhausted, drained, because you had this experience with a narcissist at work.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much for this insight. Especially, I think it's quite useful if people are having doubts, if they're, let's say, potential victim, or if it's affecting them somehow, like the narcissistic behavior at the workplace. So when we talk about this in the workplace context, in most cases, narcissists have specific victims, or let's say people who are more vulnerable to be the victim of a narcissist. So who is more likely to be the victim of the narcissist?
So to start with, victims are usually not found in superior positions because narcissists would choose not to attack, let's say, openly their manager, their superior, and in this way he will try, or she, to establish kind of a ladder to climb higher. So they would kiss up to people who are higher in position, usually and most often. So the victim are usually found in lower positions or equal to your coworkers, let's say. And a narcissist oftentimes tends to choose, let's say, one person that they would kind of clinch to and start bullying. And this person usually reflects somebody who is very, let's say, self-aware, has low self-esteem, so it's easier for them to manipulate around this person. Victims also are usually non-confrontational persons who have trouble to confront the narcissist and usually accept the messages that come from the narcissist. Victims oftentimes can be found in people who reflect their stereotypes, the narcissist stereotypes, by being part of this specific group, like let's say being woman, because they consider them in a way of being incompetent, lower, or racism, they reflect racism often in the victim. So yeah, otherwise they find victims where they can feed their ego and grandiosity. They often tend to give comments on appearance, on how the person finishes their work. So the victim can oftentimes have these questions like, am I good for this job? And am I doing well? Should I manage to change something? Should I choose something else? Because the narcissist would tend to make them feel insecure about their own, let's say, working experience.
Yeah, like questioning their own work.
Yeah, in this way, narcissists would proclaim their perfection in a way, like, you do less, but I can do it better. So basically, they feed their grandiosity and they're trying to state their own, let's say, status of being perfect and being the best in the working environment. So it's very important to protect your, let's say, mental health at the end of the day dealing with a narcissist.
Definitely. And as you said, like, not all the people are equally vulnerable, let's say, to be the victim. And sometimes even you will not feel the effect of, let's say, having narcissists at the workplace.
Yes.
But let's say if the narcissist or the narcissistic behavior is affecting you in a negative way at the workplace, what you should do about it, how to deal with this situation.
You know, in the working environment, we come across many types of people, and oftentimes we will find a lot of narcissists at work. But this doesn't mean that we have to actually like actively deal with them, because sometimes our paths does not really cross. So it's just somebody out there being a narcissist doesn't affect our own experience in the work. But so the first step would be, let's say, identifying that we are dealing with a narcissist closely in our working experience. So this would mean raising our awareness that we are actually dealing with the narcissist. Once we raise this awareness, we can kind of, let's say, set boundaries to how far we are actually letting this person to affect our experience at work. Setting these clear boundaries can be very healthy for us to keep our identity and integrity in the dynamic of communicating with the narcissist. Also, another thing that we can do is speak up, like raise our, let's say, opinions, being clear to what we want with this job done, how we want it, but to expect kind of a pushback from the narcissist. Not to be like expecting that it will go smoothly. Probably it won't. Probably it would be a reason to have certain pushbacks, but to try not to be very aggressive, either us or to cause aggressiveness inside of the narcissistic person. Another very useful technique is fact-checking. So if we fact-check the narcissist, would be a very good way to be clear in our boundaries. Like, this is a fact, this is not something you put or like manipulate around, because it's a fact. Another thing is to stay focused on our job. Like, if you're clear what your goal is, you can't kind of allow the narcissist to interfere with it. So stay focused on your job, let's say, demandings. And also, like, try to keep, let's say, this, try to keep him from getting under your skin with their, let's say, intentions, with their manipulations, with self-doubt and things like that.
Yeah, like to internalize the effects from their behavior. That's very, very interesting, actually. And we talked a lot about the negative aspects, I would say, from the narcissistic behavior at the workplace, and it can be quite toxic for the person, but also for the work organization. When you think about, let's say, from the other perspective, are there any benefits to being a narcissist? Let's say, can we get something out of it, work-wise, of course, or career-wise?
Narcissism is a personality trait that we all possess to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, it's the sum up of these, let's say, aspects of narcissism that we possess. It's how it actually can reflect to our success and being efficient, more efficient at the working experience. So, like, to start with, studies show that narcissistic personalities get more positive feedback when they're dealing with job interviews. When they're recruited, they also have more success being recruited for the job. And like one of the reasons how we can explain this is because narcissists are very self-confident and even overconfident. Like when they have this interview, they would never say like, I have no experience with this job, or like I don't know how to do this, but they would always say, oh sure, I can do this. So they would appear like more self-aware, let's say, more powerful, more driven. Confident, yeah, definitely. Also, like in the career-wise, they're more successful. They show more success and more. They're more overachievers in a way. This can be actually because they, let's say, try to risk more. They even try to play dirty, so they're not playing by the rules. They would do, let's say, even anything to achieve their goals in a way.
Yeah, like not respecting any ethical, moral principles.
Yeah, for them, at the end of the day, it's to achieve their certain goal that they set, no matter the means of how they're going to do it. Another thing is that if you're being a narcissist, it would be probably more easier for you to make a name for yourself in the field you're working with, because you're pushing yourself like too much out there, like exposing your identity, your titles, your achievements. And but I would like to say also that being a narcissist has a dark side, because it makes you more vulnerable to failures in life. So basically, you might experience more often guilt and vulnerability, and therefore, a normal people might like experience it more, let's say, positively, but a narcissist would experience it too much personally. So it's another thing that they should take into consideration.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually very cool. Thank you for sharing this insight. Especially, we have to think both, so from the negative aspect, but also from the positive aspect of narcissism, that in fact, it can benefit to a certain level for some people. And my question for you today is, have you dealt with a narcissist at the workplace, or in general, narcissism at work? Also, if you are more interested in this topic and if you have particular questions, I'm going to link the contact of Alex in the description, so make sure to check it out. And thank you.
Thank you, Vicky, and thank you, guys.